Zooming out, when we look at and work with companies adopting a product-led growth model, we see 4 different steps. And I'll walk through each of these, but it starts with appealing to end users, making sure those end users can try out the product and see value in it before being asked to pay for it, making sure those customers are successful and investing in the health of your customers before being overly aggressive and layering on sales. So PLG isn't anti-sales, but it's about bringing on the right kind of sales experience for the customer. And then finally, in this model, you're doing everything at a much different scale than you would in a traditional top-down executive level motion. And you have to measure really everything, product interactions in particular, and your traditional sales and marketing tech stack start to look really different. And so I'll walk through what that means. So for the first one, appeal to end users. If you think about what an end user cares about, it's very different from that executive. And so if you think about like your website, what's the header kind of statement that you use? It's probably around an executive pain, right? So for CRM or for a sales persona, a CRO really wants to manage their sales pipeline, make sure there's transparency, make sure they can guide their team to ultimately hit that pipeline number. The end user, that sales rep, doesn't really care about that same thing. What they care about is, hey, I hate scheduling meetings. It hurts my productivity. Or it takes a really long time to just upload my notes into Salesforce and keep Salesforce hygiene. This is taking me hours and hours a week. There has to be a simpler way. And so you want to find this end user pain and really speak to it and address it in PLG. And then that end user pain eventually ladders up to executive level pain, which is also where sales comes in to sell that broader solution. You'll even see in the sales space, there's a new company called QuotaPath that takes this for commission tracking. And so while most commission tracking or quota management software are multi-month implementations, extremely complicated, extremely expensive, hard to adjust, QuotaPath actually offers free solutions for end users, individual reps that want to just track how they're doing against their commission plan in a really easy way. And then they can sell to that head of sales ops, head of rev ops later on as they have people adopting their product. And you might think of this as, annoyance. End user pain doesn't, have an ROI attached to it that's as tangible as an executive level pain. So an end user pain, you could even say it's millennial whining. I'm a millennial, so I think I can say that. The expense reports, I hate expense reports. I mean, it's so annoying to have to keep my receipts, fill out manually all of the details about them, scan them into a system, and then send that off to someone. Why can't I just take a photo of my receipt or forward an email and have the system just automatically capture the data I need? Or Slack. I hate internal emails. It's really complicated to figure something out as a team. I wish I could just message my team members. And this is even happening in spaces where you would not traditionally expect PLG. And so I think Sneak has done an amazing job in the security space, recognizing that while the security teams and the CISOs are normally the main buyer for security products, developers are an incredibly important constituent in security. But for them, there's a lot of pain that comes with security. So they see security as a force that's slowing them down because they're trying to take control of their software development pipeline. They want to release new software quickly, and they do all of this work only to be slowed down and stopped by the security teams. And so Sneak allows them really simple solutions to take control of their products. And then security teams actually also love this because this means better security hygiene for their entire company. And when you're appealing to end users, it starts with speaking to their pain, but you also need to set your product up in the way an end user wants to experience it. So imagine that like from a consumer perspective, you wanted to start using Uber and you had to request a demo, talk to someone, they'd send over a contract, and then you'd have to implement Uber for yourself, get trained on it. You probably wouldn't go through that work of downloading Uber. People want to just sign up, ideally with credentials they already have. So with their GitHub account, with Google, with Microsoft, have click-through terms and conditions, automated onboarding that's in the product itself, documentation to help them get started, a knowledge base to go get support if they run into issues, bots to answer questions real time in the app, and then a whole community of users who are helping them discover new ways of using the product. And one thing I'll call out is that there's also leads to a different way of reaching folks, right? So with a traditional B2B SaaS environment, your marketing channels are like trade shows, they're webinars, they're outbound cold calling, they're pretty expensive cost of acquisition channels, and they're aimed at reaching this really small community of executives at a company. In an end user era, the benefit you have is you maybe have 10, 20, 30 times the number of potential people who could be using your product versus an executive product. But this also means you have to find scalable ways of reaching those users. So there's a blessing and a curse to it. And you're normally looking to optimize around word of mouth and virality, which comes from having great user experiences that people want to share with others and having collaboration in the product. So the product literally becomes a marketing channel. Doing well on Google, so SEO, especially specific product SEO where you get found in the moment that user is experiencing their pain and trying to solve for their problem. And then another one I'll call out that actually HubSpot doesn't do great on here are partners, including third-party app stores or other selling solutions to the same buyer type. And I'll walk through these specifically. And so virality and word of mouth is an awesome place to start because it's essentially free growth. A couple of examples to share. One is Calendly. I already mentioned them. You probably have seen a Calendly link. The predominant channel for which they grow is when you download Calendly and send your Calendly link to someone else to schedule a meeting, they can just put in their email address, or actually it's pre-populated for them, and immediately sign up for a free Calendly account. And so their existing users are doing the work of sharing Calendly with other people. And while they might not have an external use case for your product, you can think about internal virality as well. So spreading the product throughout other people within the own company that you're selling to. And so at Figma, they have a lot of great collaboration around design and being able to invite people. I think Slack, many people know, Slack would not be a fun product if you were the only one using it. Users actually want to invite other people. But I think even from your perspective, Slack was a great channel for adding virality, right? So if you have a Slack integration and people are downloading it, using it for free, and can tag other people in Slack, these other people within that company are discovering your product. And so that's a kind of quick way to add collaboration and virality in. On the SEO side, I think Zapier is an amazing example to learn from. And so Zapier, as you probably know, is an integration platform connecting different apps. And the end user is not searching for an app-to-app integration platform or platform as a service product. They're experiencing an everyday frustration like, hey, I want to connect my Typeform account and my HubSpot account. Specifically, I want to be able to add a HubSpot contact or create a HubSpot contact when I get a new entry on Typeform. And so Zapier tries to get found every time someone is experiencing that specific pain point. So they have hundreds of apps and they have landing pages for every app that is eligible for Typeform or for Zapier. They have landing pages for every app-to-app integrations like Typeform plus HubSpot. And then they even have specific content around the popular ways that you can use the products, so specific workflows. And then that links directly to the product where, hey, if this is what you're trying to do, you can go do it in the product and see that work really, really quickly and for free. And so Zapier is normally getting found before Typeform and before HubSpot get found when enough people are experiencing these challenges. And then kind of a bonus thing from my standpoint is they're able to look at which of these landing pages is performing best, where are their users most successful in the product, and double down from a marketing standpoint on these specific use cases and jobs to be done that their customers have. So they could really, go double down in this specific space if this is performing well for them. And they now generate over 7 million visitors every month, and more than half of their visitors come from organic search. And it's because of this product SEO strategy. I think sidecar products are a great way of doing this as well. And this is a great way too of dipping your toe into PLG if you don't have a PLG strategy already. But before HubSpot had freemium products, they had a website creator where you'd put in the name of your website, the URL, and they give you scores on the website performance, mobile friendliness, SEO, and security. And they'd even give you recommendations on how you can improve your website. The benefit then is, hey, all of these ways that you can improve are things that HubSpot can help you with. And so this became extremely popular. They've actually graded more than 4 million websites as a free product. This could kind of go viral. And this had an amazing link to what their paid product did. So I think these sidecar product ideas are a great way of starting to go after a PLG strategy and then an end user focused strategy, even if your product itself isn't ready to go fully PLG. And then a final one that I'd share that I think is underappreciated right now is third-party audiences. And so your end users might be spending a lot of time in other apps. I think the Shopify app is the most prominent example for obvious reasons. They have over 1 million merchants who are generating more than 60 billion in merchandise value. And their app store now has 4,000 apps. And you see some apps are basically taking products that already exist, right? Like email marketing, which is Klaviyo. We have so many email marketing software companies, but Klaviyo has managed to raise a Series C at a $4 billion valuation. They're north of 100 million ARR reportedly, all by focusing specifically on the Shopify ecosystem and Shopify merchants. And they're getting found when these merchants are trying to grow their business. Yotpo is another example. They're essentially a unicorn in the review space for Shopify. And you'll see a number of other companies like Postscript in our portfolio that are going after this opportunity. So I'd say don't ignore these third-party marketplaces. They're increasingly important. The next step is that price comes after value, right? So you want to be able to get your new users to solve that pain point that they came in trying to solve before you ask for them to start paying you. So we're seeing the rise of a lot more freemium, free trial, and free product strategies to do this. One example to share is Slack. And so Slack on their website, it's, hey, this is where work happens. Here's what we do. Just type in your email to get started. So it's super easy call to action, free to use, not trying to even oversell you, just get you into the product to see value in Slack. And then as Slack goes from something that a team is using to a few teams to the entire organization, what happens is that you eventually find that while they don't charge you for adding users, so you can add as many people as you want. Eventually, Slack goes from this kind of nice tool that people are using on the side to where really important work is happening and important information is living. And that's when you hit their paywall, where the amount of storage that they'll maintain. And so when you hit that kind of switch, you've seen value in Slack, you know how useful it is, you don't want to take it away, and you're extremely motivated to pull out the credit card and pay for it. And so in fact, Slack's free to paid conversion rate is amazing, even though their free product is extremely generous. It's because they're monetizing at that point that someone is seeing value. And so in a PLG motion, some sort of free offering is table stakes. You'll see a free trial is the most common. And this is from Openview's annual SaaS benchmarking survey. So 74% of companies that say they have a PLG strategy have a free trial. 38% have a freemium model. If you do the math, it's more than 100% have some sort of free offering, and some do both freemium and free trial. Some other tactics are a little less common or less mainstream yet. So self-service buying is only adopted by 61% of folks. So you don't necessarily need to go all the way through to a self-service checkout and purchase experience, as long as there's a free version to initially get started and see success. Product qualified leads are not as widely adopted either, and people are starting to really invest in growth teams to accelerate their PLG motion. One question that comes up to me a lot is, hey, should I do a free trial or freemium motion? On here, we actually did some research around it. Our annual product benchmarks was launched last June. where we looked at the funnel from folks who said they had a freemium motion and a free trial. What we found is that freemium led to more signups. So there were 6% conversion from a website visitor to getting into the product versus 4.5% conversion rate for free trial products. And so freemium really opens up that initial base of users, but there's lower conversion from free to paid. And I think a lot of why this happens is there's no initial urgency to convert, and probably some people have overly generous freemium versions. But what happens is freemium products tend to have a longer tail in conversion. So in a free trial, if you don't convert within your trial period, you're probably never going to convert. In freemium, if you don't convert within 30 days, if you're still using the product, you could convert after 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. So it takes a little longer to see those conversions. And that's where you really focus on making sure those people are still seeing value, because they will eventually convert. And so in my mind, freemium is a better long-term play, especially if you have invested in making folks successful with your product. And then you can play around with where that right paywall is, but you have a bigger base of people that are using your product, seeing value, inviting other people for free that you can then convert. Whereas a free trial, it's more of a river. You're kind of bringing people in and then you lose them, or you convert some. But I think the best model actually is to find a way to combine the two. And so I love combining freemium and free trial so that you really get the best of both worlds. Calendly in our portfolio does this. They default you to the Pro plan, which has all of their kind of premium features, and they do that for 14 days. After the 14 days, you go back to the free version. And that helps with discovery, right? So you might not realize all the things that you could do with Calendly, but if you have 14 days to try it out, you're going to discover those different things, and then you don't want them taken away. And so there's some loss aversion effects, and people convert after that trial because they've seen value, they like these things. Airtable also allows you to try out the Pro version of their product for free when you're starting out with Airtable, and then they downgrade you to the free version. And one final thing I'd add is that while this does work great for products where you can see value pretty quickly, ideally like within minutes, friction isn't necessarily an excuse to get your products. And the majority of companies with the free offering say that there is some friction to starting to use their products. I think it requires a lot more finesse and effort to try to figure out how to reduce that friction or support your folks to kind of go through those hurdles. But that to me is not a valid excuse. I mean, if ServiceNow can do it, I think you can find a way. So the third area of product-led growth is that customer success comes before sales. So PLG is not anti-sales, but it's bringing on sales at the right time and for the right customers. I want to share a quote from a really successful developer-centric PLG company around how they approach this. And for them, it's all about offering that right type of experience to the right customer at the right time. So they have tons and tons of signups onto their free tier. And as soon as someone signs up, they start to look at two different criteria. One is fit. So that's like, hey, is this a customer that is at a larger company in an industry that's a really good fit for us, in a market or region that's a good fit for us, and then also their usage level. And so for them, if usage reaches a certain level and fit reaches a certain level, that's a trigger that they should start to have a commercial conversation with that customer. If usage is not at a certain level, but fit is really high, they might proactively engage, a sales rep or a customer success person as well. But it's a different kind of experience, right? It's more about helping them discover and start to figure out how to implement the product rather than a commercial conversation. And if fit is low, they're really not going to invest a ton of human effort, but they will try to leverage email campaigns or in-product experiences to help that customer increase their usage. So that's much more of a self-service experience. What I would say is that this notion of using product data to help selling, which is kind of called product qualified leads or PQL methodology, is still not common. Only about 23% of folks say that they're tracking PQLs and their funnel conversion. And so to me, what you're essentially looking at is setting up instances in the product that you would want to use as a signal that person should get a higher grade of experience, right? So maybe it's, hey, they just implemented a really sticky integration, or they've clicked to try to implement an integration and failed. It might need some extra help. Or they've invited more than 10 users, which is a signal that, hey, this is a product where they're seeing department-wide value, or there's a bigger use case here. Or maybe they've actually, in the product, clicked on a form to go contact sales because they want to have a conversation. So it's essentially an inbound product qualified lead from a user. You want to be setting up these different points and experimenting with what leads to the best conversion rates, where is the right time to layer in a person, and whether that person should be a salesperson or customer success or support, to be able to really make sure that buying experience and that user experience is ideal, and that from your standpoint, you have the best use of resources. And I wish I could say there was like a one size fits all where everyone is doing, there are these best practices that everyone can apply. But the reality is that this needs to be customized for your target customer and your specific product. And then I just want to add, a lot of sales in a product-led growth business is more about customer expansion. And so where you already have someone trying out your product, using it for free, maybe paying for it as part of a team, and you want to expand that account. And so Zoom, in fact, says 55% of customers who spend over 100K started with one free user. Now, from a sales standpoint, they probably weren't doing a traditional sales process where they were demoing Zoom to all of these people that were already using Zoom, right? They were finding, who is the most senior stakeholder we have who already has a Zoom account? How do we get on their radar and partner with them to try to get broader adoption? So it's more working with your existing users, and based on how they're already using the product, educating them about ways to see more value in the product, arming them with collateral to help overcome objections, because you and the customer have a shared goal. You are seeing success with this product, you want to see it more widely adopted, and it's a much less antagonistic sales conversation with the customer. One tool that I find really helpful as part of this is what I call a patient zero analysis, which has taken on some new meaning with COVID. But you're looking at, you're kind of taking previous accounts that started for free and seeing what their experience was like over time. So who was the first user? Who was the second user? What was their use case? What features in the product did they add value? And trying to say, hey, these are the characteristics that our most successful customers did that led to them being successful. And here were bottleneck moments where, hey, if we had changed the experience earlier on, we could have accelerated this. And so at a Datadog in our portfolio, they might say, hey, really successful customers integrated Datadog with their IT alerting system, because that way they could go from monitoring to resolution. And that way, more people are kind of discovering Datadog within their environment. And so Datadog might then take an insight like that and try to get more and more of their new signups to be doing that activity, because they know that's a leading indicator that someone's going to grow. And the final thing is that you want to measure everything. And so in a PLG environment, you have a lot more users, you have a lot of granular product data, and that's going to be an extremely valuable source of information to optimize every different thing that you're doing, and ultimately kind of consistently grow the product funnel over time. So the first thing is setting up a PLG tech stack. And so I think one way I think about it is like, what's the analog with the old tech stack to the new tech stack? So before, you had a CRM was your system of record. Now the system of record are product analytics, right? You want to say, hey, what are our users doing inside the product? How does that ladder up across an account? And so tools like Pendo, Amplitude, and Mixpanel are extremely popular to solve that problem. Or in the old world, you might use a Gong for call recording to be able to get visibility into the status of where you are with conversations and to coach your sales reps to deliver better conversations. In the new world, it's more about session recording. So you want to monitor with real-time videos what your users are doing in the product. And so you can say, hey, this person spent 30 minutes in the app, they abandoned, they've never come back. What did it look like from their standpoint? And that'll help you design new experiences, or say, oh, hey, we need to add docs here, or we need to make it a lot easier to find how to do X, Y, Z, because people seem to be not able to discover that on their own. Dialers to engage reps, or for reps to engage with customers, become in-app chat and in-app guides. And so some of this is with bots and some of this is with people, but you're using tools like Intercom, AppQueues, and WalkMe. Contract management and kind of invoicing and CPQ become more of self-checkout tools. So self-service payment and checkout through tools like Stripe, Chargebee, and Recurly. And then finally, when in a traditional environment, you might do win-loss interviews with customers. In this new world, you're doing constant user testing with people in your target market to get real-time feedback around your application. And so you might use tools like user testing for off-site testing and more qualitative testing, tools like Optimizely for A/B testing on your site, or Userly for surveys in the application.